Week 5 of the National Football League provided us with a lot of different things. And you got to see all of the things that we love about this game and some of the things that aren't so great about this game. We got the good, the bad, and the ugly. Who else could it be? But me, your man, Louie Tee. Welcome to the 100th. Yes, we hit the century mark installment of the Louie Tee Network Podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. Wow. I didn't know, and I did this on Friday, so I don't need to do this again. You know, the whole nostalgic, didn't know if we were going to make it here type of thing. I do want to say thanks, though, a big thanks to all of you out there that have been supporting this movement from the beginning, especially the podcast, because it was fledgling for a while there. And there were a small handful of you guys out there that continued to ask about the podcast. In particular, a guy like Ali Side, who always would ask about the podcast, man, need another podcast episode. And there were a bunch of you guys out there, staunch supporters, staunch listeners. And I just want to thank all of you. And you know who you are. You know who you are and who have been supporting this entire time. And I welcome all the rest of you who just jumped on board. Glad to have you. Looking forward to making some new memories and some awesome podcasts with you guys in the future. But I want to get back on track now, as week 5 is not done yet. We still got 2 more contests in week number 5. We've got tonight's game, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, as well as Tuesday's game. We'll talk about both of those in garbage time a little bit later on in the show. But we've also got a lot of things that has already transpired in week number 5. And it was, like I said, highs and lows of week 5. It kind of encapsulates everything that we love about this game. You can get some of the best. You can get some of the worst. And that's what the NFL brings. It brings a lot of different layers and levels and things that, we just all can't get enough of, especially me. I can't speak for anybody out there. I know myself. I love all of it. It's not all the best, but it's a part of the game, and you just move forward. And so without any further ado, I think it's time for us to get to that gem dropping session, shall we? Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie Tee. Let me open you up. Thinking a little bit. So, I was sitting down thinking about how I wanted to open the show today. And I just started thinking about all the things that had happened in week 5. And I said, man, that was pretty good. That was pretty cool. And I thought, not so much. And then I thought, man, that was horrible. And it got me to thinking, good, bad, and ugly. And so here we are, week 5. You think, and this is one of the things I love about the NFL the most, is you think, but you have no idea. I sat up here in this very seat behind this very mic just a week ago telling you guys that we figured this thing out. We know who you are now. You can't hide. We know who you are. And this is what the league is going to be. Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. And you don't cut it. And then we get week 5, and then we get the Raiders going to Kansas City and winning, and you just get thrown for a loop. My week was horrible in terms of my picks, and this is the first time I told you I was confident in my picks. Well, so much for that. The best I can do this week with all of the schedule adjustments and things of that nature is 9-4 is the best I can possibly. I can't even get to double digits this week. And so this has been a disappointing week. It's been rough, a lot of losses, a lot of games that I didn't see going in that direction. But here I am. I got a chance. Let's see what we can do. So I want to start with the good from week number 5. And there were plenty of things that I could have chosen to put in this category, but I wanted to narrow it down. Wanted to narrow the focus a bit. And you got to start with Alex Smith's return to the National Football League, to the field. Who would have thought? I never thought that we would get to a point where Alex Smith would be healthy enough, or someone would be crazy enough to put this man back on the field. But leave it to one organization to be crazy enough to do it, and that's the Washington football team. And they sure enough pulled the trigger on putting Alex Smith back on the field. Now, this was out of necessity. There was an injury to Kyle Smith. or Allen, excuse me, Kyle Allen, their quarterback that took over for the previous starter, Dwayne Haskins, who was benched going into week number 5. And so Allen was promoted to number 1. Alex Smith was promoted to number 2. And Dwayne was deactivated and listed as the third quarterback. Didn't even show up for the game. Was at home sick. So it was interesting how the game was going up until the point where Kyle Allen gets injured. But when he got injured, you knew he was injured. Like, there was no, hey, he may be back right now, like he won't miss a snap. Like, he's not coming back right now. Like, this thing is happening. Alex Smith is coming into the game, even if it's only for one possession. He's literally coming into an NFL game. This is crazy, and Twitter was set ablaze. I know I was panicking. I'm like trying to get the tweet out fast enough, but at the same time, my heart's racing. And my girl's sitting next to me and we're watching the game, and she's like at the edge of her seat, because this was a snooze fest. It wasn't an entertaining game if you were watching at home, but she's at the edge of her seat now, and she can't believe that he's about to get in, and she's nervous. She's a wreck. So am I. And he gets sacked for the first time, the first of many times in this game. And you're like, oh my God, Aaron Donald literally jumps on the man's back. And he's giving Aaron Donald a back ride, for about a good 3-4 seconds, it seemed like, before Aaron Donald wrestles him to the ground. And his knee didn't shatter into pieces with, 300 pounds of man mass on his back. So you're thinking, well, shit, maybe this guy's really okay. And the doctors wouldn't have cleared him if they thought one simple contact to his knee or anything like that and his knee would implode. So obviously he's been cleared for a reason, but because we're human beings, we just don't want to see this guy get injured. But it was good to see him get out there. It's a made for television story. It's one of those Hollywood type of deals. Too bad he didn't get the Hollywood ending, come in, lead the team to a victory. But just to see him on the field, it was something to behold, and never thought I would see it. I'm not going to lie to you. And I didn't want to see it, but I saw it, and it was one hell of a sight. Another good. Dangerous Russell Wilson. Boy, that man is the truth. He is truly dangerous. Another win down the stretch for Russell Wilson, continuing to build his MVP resume this season. 5-0 for the Seahawks. They've gotten off to one of the better starts that we can remember for this team in a very long time, and it's all on the strength of number 3. It's all on the back of Russell Wilson, all on the right arm of Russell Wilson. Sure, he's got some supporting cast members like DK Metcalf, who's really been instrumental every step of the way, and Tyler Lockett and some of these other guys out there. But at the end of the day, it's Russell Wilson, man. It's the Russell Wilson show right now in Seattle. That come from behind victory last night. 2 fourth-down conversions, having to go 94 yards to do it essentially without even using that one timeout that was left. It speaks volumes. This guy is something else. And I tell you what, it's going to be hard to not have him win MVP. And it's going to be tough to beat Seattle. I just need you to understand the context of last night. The offense struggled. They struggled for the better part of 3 quarters in that game. They had 1 quarter where the defense stepped up, made some plays, and gave them short fields, and they scored 3 consecutive touchdowns. Outside of that stretch in the 3rd quarter, the offense was non-existent last night. And yet, they're still in a position to win. And when the game was on the line, dangerous Russell Wilson steps up, gets it done, and takes his team the length of the field, gets them in the end zone, and helps them pull out another dramatic win at home on primetime television, 27-26. This guy he's phenomenal. He's ridiculous. And right now, the Seattle Seahawks, they may have the best quarterback in the league. It feels that way sometimes. I know Mahomes he's otherworldly. And it's 1 and 2, really. It's Mahomes, it's Russell Wilson, and I know Aaron Rodgers is playing at a really high level. Don't get it twisted. Love Aaron Rodgers and what he's doing. To me, those 3 are in a category all to themselves, and then everybody else, again, it's one of those take 10 steps, and then you get to the rest of the league and the quarterback play with everybody else in the league. It's those 3 in a small category to themselves. And I think Russ right now is number 2 behind Mahomes. And you could argue, depending on who you ask, they may elevate, like, for instance, and I think some of it is Bill Belichick being a hater because I don't think he likes Mahomes all that much. But at the end of the day, he thinks that Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in the league. Depending on who you ask, you could get a different answer. He's right there. I just know that much. And last night was another example of why this guy is so tremendous. Another good. How about the Cleveland Browns off to a 4-1 start for the first time since 1994? When guess who was their head coach? Yeah, you guessed it. Bill Belichick was their head coach back in 94 when a lot of people thought the Browns had a chance to win a Super Bowl. And I tell you what, this team doesn't always do it the right way in terms of aesthetics, okay? That was not a clean game played by Baker Mayfield. I told you, right now, Mayfield, he makes some plays, but he's not the reason they're winning games. All right, it's more of their run game than anything else. Well, the run game wasn't all that great. Got to credit Indianapolis for kind of shutting that faucet off a bit. They didn't completely turn off the rushing faucet, but they slowed it to a slow drip. They turned it down to a slow drip, and they forced Mayfield to have to make some plays. And when you force Baker Mayfield to have to make some plays, you also get some boo-boos. And he threw 2 interceptions, but they stepped up in other ways, primarily their defense, and their defense has been one of the catalysts too. I know you look at week number 4's defensive breakdown in the fourth quarter where they gave up 24 unanswered points, 3 2-point conversions in that whole process to allow a 27-point lead to be cut to 3 at one point. But this defense has been feast or famine this season. When they're locked in and when Myles Garrett, who right now is making a hard charge for a defensive player of the year as well, when they get going, they can be problematic. They forced 2 turnovers yesterday of Phillip Rivers. They also forced a safety of Phillip Rivers. That was all Myles Garrett as he continues to tear through the rest of the National Football League. One of those picks off of Phillip Rivers went for pick 6, and so that defense was a huge catalyst. They get it done over a 3-1 team. It was a really big matchup, 2 3-1 teams battling it out in the AFC, and the Browns reign supreme, and so now they're 4-1. I want to see how they handle this success. I still think there are a bunch of different things that they have to clean up. I think there are a few glitches in what they are doing right now, but I've long said this: continue to win while you're trying to fix some of the kinks that you have or iron out some of the wrinkles. Keep winning while you're doing that, and that's what they've done to this point. After a bad start to the season, 38-6 loss at Baltimore, they've rebounded for 4 straight wins. And don't look now, but the Cleveland Browns are playing some really competent football, and they're putting their name right in the hat in that really tough, rough, and rugged AFC North division. And we talk about the NFC West all the time and how good that division is. How about this AFC North division now? 3 teams with 4 or more victories on the season. Both the Ravens and the Browns are now 4-1, and the Steelers are 4-0. So that is a division right now that is just steaming with some good football teams. We'll see what happens when those teams start to intermingle and mix it up with one another. So the last good of week 5 was Aaron Donald. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. 4 sacks for the incredible monster that is Aaron Donald. He continues to show his greatness. I've talked about this man and how good he really is. And I don't know if people understand just how good Aaron Donald is. When I make some of the comparisons and I say some of the things out of my mouth that I say, I don't make those comments and take those things lightly. I'm not one of these sensationalists that I'm living in the moment and the last thing that I saw was the greatest thing that I've ever saw. And that's not how I am. I recognize history. I take all of that stuff into account, and I understood what I was saying when I said Aaron Donald is the greatest defensive player of my generation, the greatest player that I've ever seen on a consistent basis. Now, again, there are other guys that you could look at and you could throw into that conversation. Be my guest, knock yourself out. But Aaron Donald, for me, on a week in, week out basis, is a game wrecker. He's the guy that you have to be able to stop. And I've never seen this from an interior defensive tackle. And we've seen some good ones. I had some people bring up, John Randall and Warren Sapp, and those guys were extraordinary talents in their own right. They're not Aaron Donald. I've never seen anything like this man, Aaron Donald. And it's part of the reason I don't trust him. He's got 2 first names, and he is an animal. And he was uncaged in week number 5 versus the Washington football team. For some inexplicable reason, they thought it was okay to not double this man, as if they had an all-pro guard going up against him or something. He wiped the floor with all 3 of their interior offensive linemen, and it was easy money for Aaron Donald, who just single-handedly took over that football game and destroyed Washington's offense in the rain, no less. That guy's awesome. I mean, he's ridiculous. I mean, he's out of this world. He showed it again on Sunday with 4 sacks. And now he leads the league in sacks this season with that ridiculous performance. Another one of the best from Sunday's action. Now you get to the bad. And there were plenty of things that could qualify for bad in week 5. And we start with one of the things that topped the list is the good. Alex Smith's return. Man, it was so good to see him out there once he got out there, even though you were scared to see him out there. But man, was he bad. And it wasn't all his fault. The offensive line gave him little to no time in that football game, but he was scared. You could tell. He was nervous. He should have been. Okay, he was not put in a great spot. It's bad weather. The offensive line is struggling, and he doesn't want to really get hit. And you could tell that it was first read, get the hell out of Dodge. First read, check down, get out of Dodge. And if that first read wasn't there and the check down wasn't immediately there, he was running. He was looking for somewhere to run. Doesn't help when the offensive line is just getting destroyed, which they were in this game. It's no doubt about it. And that's Aaron Donald. That's the product of having 99 across the field from your offensive line staring you in the face as a quarterback. You know that the time is really limited, and the fact that they were struggling, there was no run game for which to speak of, so there was no reason for them not to pin their ears back and come after Washington. And Washington kind of played right into their hands. They never used the screen game. They never did anything quick to get the ball out of their quarterback's hands. They really put their team in a tough spot, and they put Alex Smith in a rough spot, and it was ugly. It was one of the worst offensive performances I've seen in quite some time. It's the worst offensive performance, and I talk about the Jets and the Giants and how bad their offenses can be at times. This paled in comparison to those, or those teams paled in comparison to what we saw with Alex Smith on Sunday. It was bad. This offense was really anemic, and at one point, they didn't even have 100 yards of total offense into the fourth quarter. It was that bad. And I tell you what, for as good as a feel-good story as Alex Smith coming back, it was as bad watching him out there on the football field. And again, that wasn't just him. It was everything around him, but it was not good at all. Another bad was Jimmy Garoppolo's return in San Francisco. My goodness, that was an ass thrashing that I just didn't see coming. The Miami Dolphins, and I told you I thought that they could be competitive in that game. And I said, look, Miami is a scary team. I didn't think they would do what they did, though. I can't sit here and take credit for that. They were up 30-7 at halftime, ultimately won that game 43-17. And they were dominant. And they got after Jimmy Garoppolo. He did not look comfortable. Garoppolo was benched at halftime, not before throwing 2 interceptions and going 7 for 17 with a 15% passer rating on the day. He was awful. And he looked like a guy out there that was a little fidgety and a little bit scared and a little nervous himself, playing on a banged up ankle. Maybe he wasn't ready to return yet. And Kyle Shanahan said he did him a favor by just sitting him down and getting him out of harm's way because he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look comfortable driving off of that right leg. And maybe he came back a week or two too soon. But the Dolphins definitely took advantage of a hobbled Jimmy Garoppolo and took it to that 49ers team. And I tell you what, it's not just Jimmy that was horrible. That 49ers defense that was once one of the best in the league, they look like a shell of themselves right now. They got a bunch of injuries. So there's a reason for that. But man, was it rough yesterday. And Jimmy Garoppolo was the biggest reason why they struggled in San Francisco yesterday. And then how about these rescheduled games? That's another bad from week 5. You know, the Denver-New England game, which I think it's a farce. And I saw one of the messages, the tweets from Melvin Good and the third, who was not happy at all about this, because it's competitive. And again, I talked about this wasn't going to be fair, but you're trying to make it fair for teams that messed up. And that's the problem that I have. You're inconveniencing everyone else to accommodate teams that for whatever reason didn't get it done. They didn't follow directions and they contracted COVID-19. Just give them a loss and move on. It'll scare the rest of the teams around the league as well. You don't want to be the guy that costs your team a victory or an opportunity to play for a victory. And you don't want to be that guy. So if you can, you stop moving games around. So now the Denver Broncos they had a great opportunity with this game being played this week. And the Patriots had another positive test. Apparently, they had to shut down the facility. And just to avoid all of that, they went ahead and postponed the game, which is the right thing to do. I understand why they're doing it. I just don't like the fact that they are doing it. Just give the Patriots a loss. You had a couple of guys that didn't follow the rules, that put themselves at risk, put their teammates at risk. Now you got to pay. Okay, we're not moving 8 other games. So because of this Patriots game that's being moved to next week, now week 6, 8 different games have to be reshuffled around to accommodate this Patriots-Broncos game. This is dumb. It's stupid. You're moving 8 different games, teams that had nothing to do with this Patriots outbreak. They have to pay now because of one team. Just give the Patriots a loss. And the thing that's frustrating is, had they played this game in week 5 like they were supposed to, there would have been no Stephon Gilmore and no Cam Newton. The Broncos would have had a legitimate shot at winning this football game. And the Broncos feel like, hey, our season doesn't have to be over. 7 teams are getting into the playoffs this year. If we can win this game, get back to 2-3, we got a fighting chance this year. Why not? And now all of a sudden, you're going to push this thing back. Cam's going to be able to play. Stephon Gilmore may be able to play now. And they're not winning this game now. They went from having a realistic shot, with a second-year quarterback making his first career start potentially, to now getting Cam Newton back under center, and they're going to lose this game now. So, again, I talked about this season not being fair. But the not fair part should have been, if you don't do what you need to do to keep you and your teammates safe, that's a loss. That's what I was looking for. Capital punishment. Boom, slam that down on them and keep it pushing. They are so hell-bent on getting 256 games played this year. For what? For what? I don't understand it. As long as your TV revenue is there, as long as you're able, you're messing with our TV product now because you tried to accommodate the Titans. So now you're effing up a Thursday night game that everybody was looking forward to. I wanted Chiefs and Bills on Thursday Night Football. I was really looking forward to that. Now we don't have a Thursday night game at all, which I don't really care about. I'm not really that hard-pressed to have a Thursday night game. But, man, I wanted my Chiefs and Bills on primetime television. I'm still going to get it. It's just going to be like at 5 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday. Like, what are you doing right now? That's a premier matchup that half the people in the world aren't even going to be at home yet because they're still at work. And you're putting this game on some obscure time. Like, it's just too many shuffling of games when you could just nip it in the bud and say, hey, you effed up. Here's your penalty. Take a loss. Let's move forward. Don't force 18 teams to have to adjust their schedule and throw off people's bye week and things of that nature. I digress. That's part of the bad for me. Now we get to the ugly. And obviously you got to start with the Dak Prescott injury in Big D. Man, that was a gruesome injury, number one. You knew it the minute you saw it. The minute he's holding his calf, his ankle, I'm watching the play, and I see, this is when I always know something is really serious. The reaction of the defender that makes the tackle. If you ever remember Joe Theismann getting hurt, who was the first guy that was reacting on that play? Lawrence Taylor. He's waving vigorously for the sideline medical staff to come over like this is bad. And every time you see a defender do that, you know it's bad. And the first thing I saw, I didn't see Dak holding his leg immediately. I saw the Giants defender motioning for that medical team to come onto the field. This is bad. Like, this guy's foot is turned in the opposite direction. It's bones poking out. This is bad. And then I look down at Dak and I see him holding his leg. And you always know because the calf muscle is just flexed. His calf muscle was hard as a rock. trying to keep it together. And then I looked down at his ankle and the bone's poking out and the ankle's going the opposite way. And I said, oh my God. My girl's sitting there next to me and she can't even look. And they showed the replay and you saw it when you know it when you see it. You know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to stay at a Holiday Inn to know what happened there. His ankle's broken. And that just sucks. It broke my heart in two, you know, watching that happen. And he's a good dude, number one. Number two, he's going through so much in his life right now with his brother passing away. And he came out and talked about his anxiety, his depression. And you think this is going to help that? Football was the one thing probably giving him some joy right now, is getting away from the things off the field that, you know, have been troubling him a bit. And so football was a reprieve. It was an escape for him. And now you're taking that away from him. And now he's going to be, and I've been in situations where you're in your own thoughts. And sometimes when you're in your own head, it could be a dangerous place to be. He's got nothing but time now because of this surgery that he had last night and the recovery process. And I've heard many football players say this. When you're injured and you're recuperating and you're going through rehab, you're not a part of the team anymore. Guys don't really talk to you like they used to. The coaching staff doesn't even acknowledge you anymore. And so he's going to be essentially isolated on his own. And for all the things that he's gone through this offseason, for that to happen to him, I'm not even thinking about the contract at this point. I think he'll still be in the same spot come next year. Dallas still has a decision to make. You know, and if they don't want to pay him, if they don't want to slap that franchise tag on him for the second time in a row, guess what? I'm pretty sure there's a team out there that would be glad to pay Dak Prescott coming off of this injury all the money that he's looking for. You know, there are always thirsty teams out there looking for an upgrade at the quarterback position, and this guy can play. He's a gamer. So I don't think it's an issue of Dak getting paid still. I think he's still going to get his bread. I think you do look at the Cowboys in a negative light here and saying you should have found a way to get this done because of some situations like this. But this is why I always, and I tweeted this out in the moment, this is why I always, and I talk about this all the time. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know I always side with the players, and this is why. Because things like this can always arise, and you know that at any moment a guy's career can be over. So I'm always in favor of players getting as much money, get to the bag as quickly and get to as big a bag as you possibly can. I'm always for the players. Even if it's a guy that I'm like, man, that dude is super trash. If he can get to the bag and somebody's willing to pay him, good for you, man. Get your bread while it's there to be got. And Dak's situation is just so heart-breaking and gut-wrenching, man. I literally hurt for him. I did, man. I tweeted out yesterday, my heart is aching for Dak Prescott right now. Totally aching. Like, my heart sunk to the pit of my stomach watching that. And watching him sobbing, crying as he's being carted off the field. That's when football hits home for you. You know, and again, it's a game. And this is a part of the game. Injuries happen. But that's when you see the dark side of football and you understand that at any moment, what you love so much can be taken from you. And so luckily, this is a new day and age. Modern science and medical science are top notch. He'll be back on his feet and he'll be back to the same old Dak Prescott before you know it. But he's done for the season, and we'll see what kind of consequences this injury ultimately has for Dak Prescott. So the ugly, again, the NFC East. Oh my God, this division is just horrid. So with the Eagles' loss to the Steelers, it clinched that through the first 5 weeks of the season, no team in this division would be at or above 500 for the first time since 2013, when, you guessed it, the NFC East had done it before. And then before that, you got to go all the way back to 1968. So it's not something that happens that often, that you get through 5 weeks of football and not a single team in your division is at or above 500. And that's rough, because when you look at this schedule, and I told you we play a tough schedule. We play the AFC North. We see that division. We play the NFC West. You look at that division, it's not going to be, well, we don't play the NFC West, excuse me. We play the NFC, nope, not the North, not the South. It is the West. We do play the NFC West. We got Seattle, we got Arizona, San Francisco, and the Rams. So it's going to be rough for that division, man. They could easily, the winner of that division easily, if Dallas doesn't get on their horse, giddy up, and without Dak, I seriously don't see that happening now with Andy Dalton taking over. I could see that division being won by somebody with 6 or 7 games. Seriously. Like, if somebody doesn't clean up inside the division, and let's say the winner of the division goes 4-2 in the division, I could see that division winner having 7 wins max, 6 wins, easy. With how we could struggle outside the division, man, it's rough. That division is terrible. And right now, Dallas leads it at 2-3. And then finally, Dan Quinn. He got canned today, really late last night. He got fired. And the Falcons are just a train wreck. They're 0-5 now. No Julio Jones in that game, and they just looked tired. They looked like a team that had little to no fight. Now, they didn't get blown out in that game, but they just didn't look good. And I thought they would play better than they did. I thought they would fight for Dan like they did last year, and they just didn't have anything left in the tank. And so they lose to Carolina. That's the 3rd straight win for the Panthers. But for Dan, 0-5, him and Thomas Dimitroff, the GM, both get canned. And Raheem Morris is going to take over as the interim head coach. And so we're 5 weeks in, and 2 coaches have been fired. And I think there are more to come before it's all said and done. So, wow, didn't see this coming for the Atlanta Falcons. I had them as a playoff team before the season started. How's that working out for you? So that's part of the ugly for week number 5 in the National Football League. So let's switch gears. Let's go Slate Skatin. And before we do that, got a couple of super chats. So I want to knock those out really quickly before we go. Got one here from Kevin Dorofield. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin Dorofield. Greatly appreciate you. He said, hey, Lou, happy episode 100. Calm down since yesterday's game. Feel good about Kyle. We got to get after the Giants next week. Let's get it. HTTWFT. Yeah, I think the season begins. I talked about this already. I feel like the season starts now. Week 6 is when this season officially starts. If we're really going to be a top 5 picking team in 2021, we're going to find out over the next 6 weeks. We really are, because we've got a schedule that is more manageable than the first 5 weeks of the season, which were brutal. Everybody that we've played, with the exception of Philadelphia, has a winning record. They're good football teams. So now we're going to get the other side of the other end of the spectrum. And, now we're getting teams that aren't above 500, that aren't very good. Now we got a chance. Every team over the next 6 weeks are below 500. Got to find a way to win some of those games. So thank you for the super chat, Kevin Dorofield. Got another one here from Chris Devers. Thank you for the super chat, CD. Greatly appreciate you, my man. Chris writes, I'm heartbroken over Dak. That's my boy. I am too. That one hit me hard. And I'm obviously not a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I never like to see that happen to anybody, especially somebody like a Dak Prescott, man. It's not good for the league. It's not good for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's not good for him. And especially a guy like Dak, who has been through so much this offseason. It's terrible timing for him, and it's a terrible situation all the way around. So I was heartbroken as well. Thank you for the super chat, CD. And then lastly, I got another one here from Daily Grind. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate you, Daily Grind, for the super chat. Thank you so much. He writes, now that Dak is hurt, do you think the Cowgirls will sign long-term now? If they don't, what are their chances? What are our chances to snatch him up? The brother can play ball, man. I really think that there is a bit of the kind of the conscience of the Cowboys feeling bad that this didn't get done before. There is 2 ways to look at this. You can either look at it from a guilty conscience perspective, where they try to make something happen. I think they wanted to sign Dak all along. They put some money out there in front of them. It was a matter of years. They wanted more years. Dak wanted less years, and there wasn't a ability to come to some kind of middle ground there. But I think they want him back in Dallas. He's the perfect quarterback for that team. He represents them well. He kind of sides with Jerry Jones on a lot of things, including off the field politically, where if you get the wrong guy in there, they could clash and butt heads. I think they understand that they've got a guy that's buttoned up that will, kind of toe the company line per se and, really represent the Cowboys, because the Cowboys are not just an NFL brand. They're a national, worldwide brand. Okay. And so you can't have just anybody as the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It takes a really strong individual to carry that burden of being that guy. And Dak's done a phenomenal job of doing that. And I think they understand that. I can't see a situation in which Dak Prescott isn't the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys next year. I think they get something done. I don't know if the price comes down now or not. And if I'm Dak, I'm not taking anything less than what I feel like I deserve. And we'll see what happens. But again, I've stated this already. If they don't pay him, somebody else will. Trust me. And the Cowboys aren't stupid. They understand that. All they need to do is see that Dak looks good. And they're going to see him working out. And they're going to understand where he is in his process. This is a 4 to 6 month injury. It's not like this is a 9 to 12 month recovery process. So they'll get a chance to see him probably before the start of free agency. They'll be able to take a look at Dak. Where are we right now? October. So November, December, January, February, March. So no, he won't be ready before free agency. But if you're Dallas, you're gonna have to roll the dice and probably find a way to get it done, or slap that franchise tag on him again. You can always rescind it unless he signs it. You can always rescind it down the road if you can't come to some kind of agreement with him. But if you're Dallas, you can't afford to allow him to walk, because again, there are so many teams out there that, just as you mentioned, Washington would be one of them that I think would be really intrigued with the idea of signing Dak Prescott. It's a lot of money that you would be paying him, and that's a lot of money that you would like to get on a young quarterback where you wouldn't be paying as much on a rookie deal. But Ron Rivera seems to strike me as a guy that wants a veteran in there. I don't think he wants to go through the growing pains of a young quarterback. And if that's the case, Dak Prescott would be right up his alley. So we'll see. Thank you once again for doubling up. Thank you for doubling up Daily Grind, man. I really appreciate you, man. Really sincerely do. Thank you so much for your generosity and your support. Daily Grind writes, see you tonight, Lou, after the game, man. I appreciate you. Deuces, I'll catch you later, man. I really do appreciate you. Look forward to chopping it up with you after the Saints and Chargers game tonight. And I'll be back again on Tuesday after the Bills and the Titans lock horns on Tuesday. So you'll get a little bit more of me this week than you normally would. Thank you so much for those super chats. Daily Grind. So now we're going to go slate skating, and I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. So let's go week 5 slate skating. I got my rollerblades on. I'm ready to go perusing through this league real quick. The week 5 slate, which was somewhat of a surprise to me. A couple of games that I didn't see going in the direction that they went. Let's go through these games quickly. Jacksonville at Houston. I thought Houston could get their first win of the season. It wasn't pretty for about 3 quarters. But they get the win 30-14, get off the schneid, get their first win of the season for interim head coach Romeo Crennel. I told you there's usually that 1 to 2 week boost of morale when you get rid of a guy, especially one that seemed like he was a tyrant like Bill O'Brien. And so you get a guy that's a little bit more easygoing like a Romeo Crennel. They're going to want to win for Romeo. They got it done for him. Texans struggling offensively for 3 quarters. Again, this game was 13-7 into the 4th quarter. They still don't have it going offensively for whatever reason. I can't really put my finger on it. Obviously, everyone's going to point to no DeAndre Hopkins. That's the easiest thing. That's the low-hanging fruit. But they've got talent out there. There's no excuse for them not being able to move the football more effectively when you've got Kenny Stills, when you've got Brandon Cooks, and you've got Will Fuller. You got all this speed, you got all this talent. There's no excuse to not be able to move the football. And they added Randall Cobb. You've got all this speed and talented receiver. There should have been more than enough to overcompensate for the loss of DeAndre Hopkins, but for whatever reason they haven't. And they were able to turn it up in the 4th quarter and run away and hide in this football game. And there was a key play that I'll talk about here in a second. Josh Jones gets ejected. This is the 2nd week in a row that we've seen a player ejected for a hit to a defenseless player. I didn't agree with this one. The one last week, okay, I didn't love it. The Harrison Smith ejection, but okay, whatever. I understood it. He launched, he left his feet. This one wasn't as egregious. I didn't like this ejection call here on Josh Jones. I didn't love the call here. I think this was a little bit premature, but he was ejected from the game. 2 missed field goals for the Jaguars in the first half with Steven Hauschka, and he's a shell of himself. He used to be Steven House Money Hauschka because you knew he was money anytime he lined up to kick it when he was back in Seattle, and even for a brief stint in Buffalo. This guy was money. Now the leg strength looks like it's gone. He's inaccurate. He's going to find himself out of the league, and I don't know if he's going to get another opportunity after this. Jacksonville had one of the best kickers in the league earlier in the season before he got injured, and Josh Lambo, and now with Hauschka, he's just struggling, and it hurt them in this game. Again, I told you it was 13-7. Well, 2 field goals ties that game up at 13. It's a different ball game instead of trailing 13-7. I digress, though. Poor execution by the Jags on a 4th and 1 attempt. At the time of this 4th down attempt, it was 13-7 in the game, and you're in field goal range. You could have easily settled for the field goal, but even if you decided, okay, we want to go for it, how about you not try to get cute and do a halfback pass that the running back drops on the ground as he's trying to throw it, has to pick it up and gets tackled for a 3-yard loss? How about you not do that? That's so Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, that lack of execution there is such a bad football team move, and that was horrible, and it's indicative of where the Jaguars are as a football team. That really was the beginning of the end for them, because after that turnover on downs, the Texans then started to execute at a high level offensively, scored 17 unanswered points, and ran away and hid in this game. But they didn't score 17 unanswered points. I take that back. They scored a touchdown on that drive. And you know what? That was the first Texans turnover. It was a turnover on downs, but the first Texans turnover forced this season. We're 5 weeks into the season, and they hadn't forced a turnover all year long. It tells you how inept they've been this season on the defensive side of the football, and creating opportunities in short fields for their offense. The Jags actually had a good response after going down 20-7. They go take the football down the field. Gardner Minshew, he heated up on that drive. And ended up getting them in the end zone. And all of a sudden it was 20-14. But again, the Texans really put their foot on the gas pedal with 10 unanswered points after that to push this game out of reach. You even had another turnover forced by this defense that hadn't created a turnover all year, and that helped them seal the deal as they win this game 30-14, get their first win of the season, get off the schneid. They're now 1-4. So is Jacksonville leaving this game, and we'll see if Houston can kind of get hot. I told you their schedule was very doable, and they needed to win last week against the Vikings. They didn't get it done, and so now that climb uphill is a lot steeper. I don't see them doing anything, but at least they are no longer have a goose egg in the left-hand column. So you go to Cincinnati and Baltimore, family business of the AFC North variety, and this one was never close. 27-3 win for the Ravens. They just harassed Joe Burrow. This looked a lot more like the Cincinnati offensive line and offense that struggled in week 1, and Burrow was being harassed. The same, offense that couldn't protect him in week 2, even though they scored 30 points in that game. He was being harassed in that game and slammed down like a rag doll. He was absolutely abused in this game, was Joe Burrow. He was sacked 7 times. He was hit another handful of times. Devin Duvernay is so fast. I just need to point that out. Had an early reverse in this game, and he was smoking. Big gain to kind of get the chain of events kicked off for the Ravens on the offensive side of the football. Mark Andrews is ridiculously good at the tight end position. Man, when we start talking about some of the best tight ends in football, especially from a pass catching standpoint, you shouldn't get too far down the list before you name Mark Andrews, because he plays with a quarterback that doesn't know much about touch. Everything's coming out at 99, 98 miles an hour, whether he's 5 yards, 15, or 25 yards away. And so some of these catches that this guy's making, and they're not always accurate. He's got to go down and dig some out of the dirt. He's got to stretch behind him. He's got to climb the ladder. To put hot sauce to go on a pass that's, maybe an inch or two outside of my catch radius, and I still got to go up and climb the ladder and go get it, speaks volumes about Mark Andrews' hands. And so, there are the George Kittles and the Travis Kelce's and the Darren Wallers of the world. Yeah, there are a few guys that you're like, okay, they're next level. But once you get to that next wave, the Mike Gesicki's and the Mark Andrews, you got to make sure you put Mark Andrews in that category. Like, he is so good at the tight end position. My God, he's so good. He was outstanding in this game again. Another touchdown grab for him in this football game. Ravens with 15 straight games with a takeaway defensively. They're just remarkable on that side of the football. You know, it isn't always pretty from a pass rushing standpoint. A lot of times they've got a blitz to create pressure, but man, they've got some smart defenders. That's what makes it work in Baltimore, is that guys are where they're supposed to be. They're not out of position very often. You know where the guy that's supposed to be helping you is going to be, and he's going to do his job. They have a great understanding of zone concepts and how to zone match and not allow guys to just run to open space. And they just do everything the right way. And an interception by Marcus Peters set up a score. They have a scoop and score by their rookie Patrick Queen on a forced fumble of Mike Thomas on a catch. Ball comes out. Patrick Queen scoops it, scores it, and that was pretty much all she wrote in this ball game. That made it 27-0. They would go on to win 27-3. AJ Green, it's AJ Green, injured again, hamstring injury. I don't know if he'll ever be the same football player. He doesn't look right to me right now, and he's hurt again. He definitely won't be in Cincinnati after this season, and we'll see if a team wants to give him an opportunity to prove himself elsewhere, but he doesn't look right now. Ravens have so much speed offensively. It's just ridiculous. It's coming out of every nook and cranny. I got a good look at J.K. Dobbins, and he has a little pop to him. You look at, I talked about Devin Duvernay. Hollywood Brown had his first touchdown catch of the season for him this year. He's ridiculously fast. Lamar Jackson is a blur himself. Miles Boykin can run. They've just got so much speed everywhere. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. Anyway, Burrow, he's a tough cookie, but he's got to stop taking these shots, man. My goodness. He got lit up in this game. And his offensive line has to be better. He's got to know when to say when. I told you that one of the things that I didn't like about Burrow coming out, one of my few knocks on him, was that he didn't know when to give up on a play. And he was willing to take shots that you shouldn't be willing to take. And I heard a mic'd up from Joe Burrow last week against Jacksonville, and he was like, he slid on a play, and he told the linebacker that was coming to hit him, I learned something early in this season, man. I'm not going to be letting y'all hit me, man. I got to stop doing that. And it's like he forgot all about it this week, because he was being reckless. He was taking unnecessary shots, throwing the football up for grabs, just doing some things that aren't going to allow him to maximize his talent. But the offensive line has to be better too. They were atrocious in this football game as well. But I said all of that, and the defense, I thought, gave them an opportunity in this game, man. Logan Wilson had a pick of Lamar Jackson. He almost had another pick. I love Logan Wilson. I told anybody that would listen during the draft process that he's Leighton Vander Esch light, and he looks the part. He's a fat. There was one play, Lamar's rolling out to his left, and Logan just comes like he shot out of a cannon and tracks him down and lights him up as Lamar's throwing the football down the field. This guy's got some speed. They got some stuff. They should have had another pick. There was another opportunity for another linebacker to have a pick. This defense played well in this game. They got after Lamar. They limited the rush yards for the Ravens. They really gave the offense every opportunity to keep this game competitive, and the offense wanted no parts of it as they get run 27-3, and Baltimore improves to 4-1 on the season. Meanwhile, Cincinnati drops to 1-3-1 on the season. Carolina at Atlanta, a really disappointing effort by the Atlanta Falcons in this game as Carolina wins their third consecutive game, 23-16. They're now over 500 and right in the thick of things in that NFC South division, right there in the mix with New Orleans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So don't count out Carolina. I still think that some of this Carolina Panthers resurgence is fool's gold and that they haven't played anybody really good. I don't care. You find ways to win in this league, and that they have. And they beat Arizona last week, so that kind of dispels the notion that they haven't played anybody any good. I think the Chargers are better than their record, so these have been impressive wins, especially without Christian McCaffrey. And I think that's actually been a blessing in disguise because it taught them that they can't just rely on Christian McCaffrey for all of their offense. They've got to look elsewhere. And because McCaffrey hasn't been there, other guys have had to step up, and they have. And so when McCaffrey does come back into the mix, I think they're going to be a much better team because of it. Todd Gurley looked the best that I've seen him look in an Atlanta Falcons uniform in this game. He looked more dynamic, more explosive, more like the Gurley that we fell in love with throughout his duration as a Ram And they need that moving forward if they're going to salvage this season and not be one of the worst teams in the NFL. No Julio in this game really stagnated this Falcons offense. We talked about Calvin Ridley stepping up and being the number one. He did his part in this game. He had 7 catches for over 7 or 8 grabs for well over 100 yards. He did his part, but nobody else. And the key to having Julio is he takes away so much coverage from other guys, and he just opens up the offense so other guys get to run free. You know, the Zacchaeuses of the world and the tight ends, the Hayden Hurst, all those guys get free runs when Julio is on the field. You take him out of the offense, and they just look like they were lost offensively. They couldn't sustain offense. When they didn't finish off drives. Not that Julio's a massive red zone target because he hasn't had a ton of touchdowns over the last few years, but man, they just didn't look the same offensively in this game. Matt Ryan wasn't sharp either. That doesn't help. You know, he had a bad interception with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You're in a ball game. You got a chance to steal, and he just throws an absolute back-breaking interception at that time of the game. You just can't have it. You know, you want to try to steal one against a team that might be better than you and is better than you. Let's not might be, is better than you. You got to find a way to at least get a field goal out of that possession. He throws just an egregious interception there. That was the killer there. That was the backbreaker. The Panthers are doing a really good job of maximizing their talent. And I kind of alluded to that at the top of this breakdown. I think if you're a Panthers fan, really enjoy what you're getting out of Joe Brady now because he's going to be gone. Someone's going to hire him. In this league, in this day and age where teams are always looking for the next hot young offensive mind, Joe Brady checks off every single box. And so he's going to be a head coach here very shortly. I wouldn't be shocked if he got a head coaching job next offseason. So enjoy him while you can because he's doing a tremendous job of taking Teddy Bridgewater and highlighting his strengths, minimizing the things that he doesn't do well. They're booting teams to death. They're getting out on the edge. They're using the speed that they have with Robbie Anderson and Samuel, Curtis Samuel, and you had a catch and run for a touchdown with DJ Moore in this game. They're utilizing all of this speed that they have, but then they're sprinkling a little bit of Mike Davis, who has been awesome in the absence of Christian McCaffrey. They're maximizing this offense right now, and it's all Joe Brady. It's all Joe Brady, and again, he's not going to be here for long, so enjoy him while you can. Their defense is doing just enough. I'm not overly wowed by the Carolina Panthers defense, but they're just getting it done. You know, guys are stepping up and getting pressure on the quarterback, flushing them out of the pocket. They're doing enough against the run, even though they got gashed on the ground in this game. They're just doing enough, man. Guys are stepping up, making plays, like the interception in the end zone. Like, guys are just stepping up, man. It's fun to watch when a young team comes of age a lot earlier than you expected them to. And here are the Carolina Panthers, 5 weeks in, after an 0-2 start. They're 3-2 now, 3 straight wins. Here comes Matt Rule and this Carolina Panthers football team. And here they come, man. I told you this guy's a hell of a football coach, and he's doing a hell of a job right now as they get it done. And they're now 3-2. Look out for the Carolina Panthers. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, Atlanta now 0-5. Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff both get fired. Raheem Morris going to take over as the interim head coach. We'll see what happens with the Falcons this season. They could have, everyone keeps talking about Washington and Jacksonville and all these teams, Jets and Giants. All these teams are going to have a top 5 pick. Don't leave out the Atlanta Falcons. They stink. They really do stink. Las Vegas Raiders, Kansas City Chiefs. What a game this was. And this was one of the biggest surprises of the day. First of all, I'm out of my survivor pool behind this bullshit. So, I'm pissed off about this. I told you, this is why I don't like family business. This is why I stay out of family business right here. And had I known, and this is the reason I didn't pick the Ravens game, because I really wanted to go there. That was my fallback plan. But Lamar hadn't practiced almost all week. And I heard that he was going to play, but I wasn't sure. And I just needed to know. And the Bengals were playing with confidence. I should have known that defense was going to get after Joe Burrow. And that even if Lamar didn't play, that defense would do enough. And they'd win that game. I should have stuck to my guns. But I said, you know what? I got a Kansas City Chiefs get out of jail free card. I don't know how many times I'm going to get to use it this year. They're going to outscore the Raiders. I said, the Raiders are trying to put this theory to test that they can outscore the Chiefs. All right, they went out and got all this team speed offensively, and they want to outscore. The Broncos did the same thing, and I said, That's a mistake. The way to do it is to do what the Chargers did and try to slow them down. And the Chargers did. They just didn't get the win. Well, the Raiders said, I'm going to prove you wrong. Getting all my stuff back. Getting Henry Ruggs back. Got my speed back. I'm going to show you how to do it. And boy, did they ever. This was impressive, man. 40-32 victory at Kansas City. Gives the Chiefs the first blemish on their record this season. They dropped to 4-1. And remember, I told the Raiders that they weren't serious. That the Las Vegas Raiders were pretenders and that they didn't belong in that conversation of those teams starting the season off 3-0. 2 weeks later, they were 3-2, and I said, I told you so. I said they needed to win 2 out of these 4 games in order for me to feel like they were legit. And they started out those first 2 games, they lost, and I said, yeah, I told you. They're not for real. They're not serious. Well, they kind of changed that narrative on Sunday, getting this win. Or they started out the season 2-0, and then dropped the next 2. But they stepped up in a major way. And I tell you what, the opening drive negated by for Kansas City, the opening drive touchdown negated by a Kelechi Osemele penalty, and they were forced to punt. And you know what this game really highlighted for me is that the Chiefs are a very undisciplined team. You know, they always lead. They're right around the league leaders in penalties every year. But you know what? When you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Travis Kelce, and you got Tyreek Hill, and you got Samuel Watkins, and you know all of these guys, they allow you to overcome mistakes and penalties and things of that nature. They don't turn it over, so they're not a high turnover team, but they do have a ton of penalties. And the penalties killed them, absolutely crucified them in the game. I just told you about one possession, and this was a Patrick Mahomes laser bomb down the field. Just a gorgeous throw. 55 yards in the air, in double coverage, touchdown. And it doesn't count. Henry Ruggs III is a problem, man. I told you, he's the closest thing I've seen to Tyreek Hill. I told anybody that would listen, my buddy's a Raiders fan, and he's like, he's not Tyreek Hill. I said, okay, you'll find out. Trust me, what I tell you. And we saw it. Smoked the Chiefs secondary on a number of occasions, including a 75-yard bomb for a touchdown where he just runs away from the defender there. I think it was Ward on that play. Just runs away from him. This guy's an elite level talent. And if Derek Carr lets it go like he did in this game, there are going to be many more of these come the rest of this season. He was outstanding. 2 big drops by Kansas City when the score was 21-17. Chiefs were up in this game. They had an opportunity or they were down 21-17, They had a couple of big drops that forced them to have to settle for I think they had to settle for a field goal on that drive, if I'm not mistaken. They had opportunities in this game, did the Chiefs. They really did. They had another touchdown negated on a Travis Kelce OPI. Had to settle for a field goal to make it 24-all. They were down 24-21, and they had a chance to take the lead 28-24, and they had to settle for a field goal to tie the game up at 24. So 10 penalties, 94 yards, and 2 of those penalties negating touchdowns. That's essentially taking 11 points off the scoreboard. You lose this game by 8. I mean, those kind of mistakes usually don't come back to haunt the Chiefs, but they did in this particular game because the Raiders proved that they could hang with them and score. Nelson Agholor has found a new home. You know who else has found a new home? Devontae Booker. Both of those guys look really comfortable in Vegas with this Raiders football team. Agholor, I thought just needed to change the scenery. I knew the guy could play. Had a bunch of drops in Philadelphia. And I think it was just a confidence thing. You know, the fan base had gotten down on him. You know, I think the coaching staff had gotten down on him. And it just became too much of a burden to bear for him. And he just needed to change the scenery where no one was looking at him like a failed first-round pick. No one was criticizing him for drop passes. He could just get a fresh start. And we saw him ball in that Super Bowl year. And he's balling again for the Raiders. And he looks damn good. Had a big catch in this game. Did for a touchdown. Did Agholor. And this is like 2 in as many weeks. I think he had a big one against Buffalo last week as well. He's making plays, man. He's found a home. He had a big one against the Panthers in week 1 as well. He's balling right now. I love what I'm seeing from Nelson Agholor. And tell you what, too. Devontae Booker is running well. He's not going to get a bunch of touches with Joshua Jacobs if he's healthy, and they already have a third down back in Jalen Richard, who's one of the better ones in the league. So there's not going to be a lot of touches and opportunities for Devontae Booker, but when he's getting those opportunities, he's making the most of them. Had a big run in this game, and he's had a couple of nice runs this season. He looks to be really comfortable in Vegas as well. And I've said this for a long time, and people keep dismissing this. Samuel Watkins is the X factor in Kansas City. I told you, look, what they've gotten so far out of Clyde Edwards-Helaire is awesome. Tyreek Hill is a problem. He's a force in this league. Travis Kelce is one of the toughest matchup problems in the league. But when you really separate the Chiefs from everyone else offensively, it's because they have that extra gear, and the extra gear is Samuel Watkins. If there is no Samuel Watkins, and now you're relying on Demarcus Robinson, or you're relying on some of these guys that are inconsistent, like Mecole Hardman, it just takes away from the ability of this offense to be dynamic. Yeah, they still got other pieces. I just talked about Mecole Hardman. I just talked about Demarcus Robinson. These guys are fully capable. Demarcus Robinson makes a ridiculous one-hand grab. It didn't count. He's out of bounds, but it's a ridiculous one-hand catch. They're fully capable. But what makes them tough to stop is if you try to focus in on Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, that's when Samuel Watkins gets you. And you can't stop all three of them. You may be able to slow down one and shut the other one down, but you can't stop all three. And when you take him out of the mix, and he had a hamstring in this game, and he left, right around the end of the second quarter. And it's not a coincidence that the Chiefs scored 24 points in the first half, or 21 points in the first half. And I don't know if they scored a single point, maybe a field goal in the third quarter. The offense went completely to sleep. I think it was tied at 24 at halftime. And I don't think either team scored in the third quarter. Both offenses went to sleep, but in particular, the Chiefs' offense went to sleep. And it really happened when Samuel Watkins got injured. I really feel like he's the key to that offense. He's the X factor, as I like to call him. And what a win by the Raiders, man. What in the hell? I was so impressed that not only did they go in there and win, but they put their foot on the gas pedal. They had opportunities. Every time the Chiefs tried to pull away, remember, this was a 14-3 game. And then you get the Aguilar bomb. All right, and that gets it back to 14-10. The Chiefs go back down the field, score again. And you know what they said? And I think they scored a field goal, if I'm not mistaken, the Chiefs did. And so it was 17-10. Might have been I don't remember. I'm getting confused. I just know that every time the Chiefs scored, they went back and scored. I think the Chiefs did score. And they went down and they got another touchdown. And this one was the touchdown to Henry Ruggs III. They just were so dynamic and explosive in this game. They were so willing to go toe-to-toe, and they weren't afraid. And they made the big plays in the game. They rolled the dice on fourth down. I love their fullback, Alex Ingold. They throw it to him down the field, too. And Waller had a big touchdown grab in this game. They're not afraid. When they've got Henry Ruggs in the lineup, it changes everything. They're not afraid. And I might have been wrong about this Raiders team. We'll see. I'm not going to crown them because they went. This is family business. You know how the family does it, okay? You know how the family do it. So I'm not going to crown them because they went to Kansas City and won for the first time since like 2014. But this is a massive win. Chiefs haven't lost since last year in like November. So this is a big deal. We're going to see if the Raiders can continue to build off of this. This is a big win, 40-32 for the Raiders as they get over 500 again at 3-2. And now they're only one game out of first place in that division. Who knew? Cardinals, Jets. This was a snooze fest. No Sam Darnold in this game. That meant Joe Flacco got the start. 30-10 victory for the Cardinals. It wasn't pretty by the Cardinals at all, but they get the win. The Jets D actually hung tough in this game, but the offense is just disgusting. They're just an abomination. I'll give you an example. Very first play of the game, Adam Gase dials up a bootleg to get outside for Joe Flacco, and it's successful because last week the Cardinals got booted to death by the Carolina Panthers, and they had no answer. So the first thing Gase does, first play of the game, is he runs boot. And the Cardinals, because they're dum-dums, they fall for the boot, hook, line, and sinker. And they've got a wide open Smith, does Joe Flacco, and he throws the ball a yard behind him. Incomplete. And I said, you know what? That is so Jets. You're so trifling on offense. You just stink. So that was the day for them offensively. They could only muster 10 points. Thank God for Jamison Crowder, or they probably would have been shut out of 3 games this year. He's all of their offense. He scored their only touchdown in this game. He went over 100 yards again. If not for Jamison Crowder, this offense would absolutely contend for the worst NFL offense in the history of offense. They stink. Anyway, I digress. The Cardinals are one of the most penalized teams in the league, and they showed it in this game. They're another one of these teams that you guys, they're young. You forget that sometimes because they can be so dynamic. They're a young team. They're going to make a bunch of mistakes. They made some mistakes in this game, and it's going to cost them against better teams, better opponents. But they were able to get through it today. A massive 4th and 1 conversion to Darnell Daniels really changed that game. It was 17-10. I mean, like I said, the Jets defense hung in there. And this Cardinals team, they're still trying to figure some things out after the hot start to the season. But that Darrell Daniels 4th and 1 conversion, they picked up a nice chunk on that one, like 30-something yards. Really kind of kickstarted that offense again. They end up scoring 13 unanswered points to finish the Jets off in this game after the Jets had closed the gap to 7 at 17-10. Those 13 unanswered points, including that 4th and 1 conversion that put them in a position to score, put them away, and got the Cardinals to win 30-10 to get back to over 500 at 3-2 on the season. The Jets dropped to 0-5, and they are a train wreck. The Eagles at the Steelers. This was a fun one in week number 5. I'll go through this one quickly. Biggest takeaways from this game: the Steelers have an absolute stud at receiver in Chase Claypool. I just absolutely love this guy. He's a Golden Domer, so there's a special place in my heart. I hold special affinity for Chase Claypool, and I told anybody that would listen, he's the best receiver that had come out of Notre Dame in a very long time. I didn't think he was worthy of a first-round pick because he was still raw, but I said, man, if this talent if he ever his the level of consistency and level of play ever meets the level of talent that he has, he could be one of the best receivers in the league. I'm going to just tell you this right now. He's DK Metcalf Jr. And so you see what DK Metcalf has become. Chase Claypool will be that next year. He's going to do what DK did in his rookie season, which is tear the league up, look like he's on the cusp of doing something big, and in the following year, in year 2, he's going to announce his arrival as one of the best in the league. And so Claypool is just giving you a little taste, and he's not getting a bunch of targets and touches every game. I think he's going to see an uptick after this performance here, because I think they're starting to realize we need this guy. He's not just an extra like Juju Smith-Schuster and the other kid that has some speed. I never remember his name. That always gets hurt, but he can run and do some things. They got all these different receivers and James Washington out there. And Chase Claypool was supposed to be like an afterthought. He's like extra icing on top of this cake that they have with all these receivers. Now they're realizing, no, he is the cake. Him and Juju Smith-Schuster are going to be a nasty 1-2 tandem when they figure it out. And this guy had 3 touchdowns, 7 catches, 110 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then he ran for another touchdown. So he had 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns in this game. He was massive, okay? The Eagles themselves found, I think they've unearthed a gem, and I'm so proud of this kid, Travis Fulgham. I told anybody that was within earshot of my voice on Sunday Night Football last week that this guy's a Monarch. All right, Monarch, stand up. He's from Old Dominion University. I was so excited when he got drafted by the Detroit Lions last year. They cut him. He ends up in Philadelphia's camp, and he got an opportunity due to all the injuries. He stepped up big, and he was the only guy balling out there at the receiver position on Sunday. This guy had 10 catches, 152 yards and a touchdown. And every big third down, every big down that they had in this game, every time they needed to play, Carson Wentz was looking for Travis Fulgham. I loved it. I love it. I'm rooting for this kid, man. And he was awesome in this game. They may have found something in Travis Fulgham. And all you see now is the confidence continuing to build week in, week out, that he's getting more opportunities and more targets. He's making plays for them. And also what I found out in this game is that the Steelers defense is not elite. Because this Eagles offensive front, it's musical chairs. Left tackle's banged up. Right tackle Lane Johnson left the game. They had to put in Jack Driscoll. They got all kinds of guys in there, and they couldn't get any pressure on Carson Wentz. They struggled in this game. Wentz had all day to throw. They struggled mightily, and I wasn't impressed. They give up a 80-yard, draw play to Miles Sanders for a touchdown. This defense, who we lauded and praised and touted as an elite unit, anything but in this football game. And so I'm not impressed with the Steelers defense, but the offense picked them up this game. And got to credit the Eagles' patchwork offensive line, though, because they got it done, staring a team in the face with the likes of TJ Watt and Bud Dupree and all of the guys, the Stephon Tuitt's and the Cameron Haywards, all these guys that they could throw at you. And Carson Wentz had pretty much all the time he needed to distribute the football in this football game. So got to credit that offensive unit for getting it done. They just fall short, though. 2 more turnovers for Carson Wentz in this game. That really proved to be the difference. But Chase Claypool putting everybody on notice. Man, was he impressive in this football game, or what? As they get the win 38-29 and remain undefeated in atop the AFC North division. Meanwhile, Philadelphia falls out of first place now at 1-3-1. It's a shame that I even said that they were in first place with the record that they have. Rams at Washington. This was another snooze fest. This was a tough game to watch personally. 30-10 win for the Rams. They complete the season sweep over the NFC East division. All 4 of their wins coming against this division. So you have to kind of question whether the Rams are legit or not. But they did what they were supposed to do. That's the worst division in football. You beat all 4 of them. No questions asked. They did that in this game. Jared Goff was outstanding. Started this game off 9 of 9 before he met his first incompletion. And really some of those incompletions were drops. On a 4th down and 1, he goes down the field in a downpour. I mean, in a monsoon to Robert Woods, who drops the football. And I'm not going to kill Woods for that. Like I said, it was a monsoon at that point of the game. But Goff was magnificent in this game. He took advantage of a defense that made a bunch of mistakes on the back end. When opportunities presented themselves, he did not miss. And when he needed to use his legs, he even scored a rushing touchdown in this game. So he was really good, was Jared Goff. The real story, though, was the defense of the Rams that just absolutely dominated a Washington offensive line that just looked overmatched in this game. Aaron Donald had 4 sacks in this game. Some linebacker named Reeder had 3 sacks in this game. It was just an atrocity by this Washington offensive line. But then again, Alex Smith was scared for his life back there. And so he ran into about 3 or 4 sacks his damn self. But it was just hard to watch. At one point, Washington's offense didn't even have 100 yards of total offense. And we were into the 4th quarter. It was abysmal. Again, it was hard to watch at times, but better days are ahead, I'd like to think. And the Rams dominate this football game 30-10, get to 4-1 on the season. Meanwhile, Washington drops to 1-4. And Alex Smith's return, we talked about that already, so I don't really need to rehash that. Comes in late stages of the 2nd quarter, gets the nod in the 2nd half. Even though Kyle Allen had been cleared to go, had led Washington to their only touchdown drive of the day. They just kept him out of the game for a precautionary reason and really threw Alex Smith to the Wolves. I didn't think that was fair at all to Alex, but that's nor here nor there. Rams dominate, win the game 30-10, and now remain a game behind the Seattle Seahawks for first place in the NFC West. Miami Dolphins at San Francisco 49ers. This was one of the biggest surprises of the day. If the Raiders defeating the Chiefs was the biggest surprise of the day, this was the second biggest. And not because the 49ers are as good as they were last year. We know they're not the same team. Injuries have made this team look like a shell of themselves. The secondary is all kinds of banged up. The front four isn't the same. They're just not the same defense. They're not the same offense, and it showed in this game. The Dolphins, and this is one of those fitty contests where I told you, when this guy's on, he's a national treasure. I've already talked about this. When he's on, there aren't many better in the game at doing things to help their team win. But you don't know which fitty you're going to get, which is why he's fitty, because it's a 50% chance he could show up, throw 3 touchdown passes, run for another one, and you score 38. And then there's a 50% chance that he could throw 3 interceptions and fumble once, and you could lose giving up 38 points. But this was one of those games where he was just hot. Similar to what we saw a couple of Thursdays ago against the Jaguars. He was just hot. Early in this game, he could do no wrong. Preston Smith had a massive first half. They found a weak link at the cornerback position named Brian Allen, who was getting his first action of the season for the 49ers. First of all, if you're wearing the number 48 at the cornerback position, you deserve to get abused. We got to get you a better jersey number than that. You wearing 48 as a corner? Oh, we about to eat your ass up. So they found 48 time and time again, and they just tormented him all game long. And they had a blast at his expense. And every time they saw him in one-on-one, boy, did they go have some fun. And Preston Smith, it was Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, everybody got their turn in this game. They ran a G on Brian Allen, and it was not fun to watch. And before you know it, you looked up, it was 30-7 at halftime. Jimmy Garoppolo had thrown 2 interceptions. They could not stop this Dolphins offense. And man, it got ugly quick. This thing was 17-7, and then you looked up again and it was 30-7. You were like, well, goddamn, what got into you guys? I told you this Dolphins team, they're well coached. I told you that last week when they almost beat Seattle. I said, this is a well coached football team, and they're going to be in games, and they're going to win some games. And this was one of those games where they had it clicking on all cylinders, and they could do no wrong in the first half, and they had it on cruise control in the second half. Jimmy Garoppolo gets benched at halftime in favor of C.J. Beathard, and it didn't get any better once he got in the game. And the Dolphins coast to a 43-17 victory. This was impressive. This was really impressive by the Miami Dolphins, and I think they're a team that you don't want to play. They're not going to win, 9 games this year or anything like that. But they're a team you just don't want to play because you don't know what Dolphins team is going to show up. But they're disciplined enough, and they're talented enough on both sides of the football. Rick Van Winkle had 19 sacks in this game, was all over the football field. I mean, and his name is Van Ginkel, but I just like, they got so many guys out here that are just playing ball. I mean, it's just fun to watch these boys play ball, man. They're a fun team. They're well coached. They're disciplined. They're going to be problematic. And so they get the win. They're 2-3 now in the season, are the Dolphins. And I'm telling you, they're a scary team. You don't want to play them. If you're looking to try to get into the playoffs late in the season, you don't want to play the Dolphins. You don't want to play the Dolphins. Giants at Dallas. This was a fun one. It's you might have watched the 2 best teams in the division. Oh my God, I kid. The Giants are the best team in the division, but they put up a hell of a fight, man. Jesus, 37-34. It seems like when these 2 teams play, it's usually this kind of game, down to the wire. Last team with the football wins type of deal. And that's exactly what we got here. The Giants were game again. Remember, this is a team that was right into it, into the fourth quarter with the Steelers in week 1 until their quarterback throws just a hideous, egregious pick in the end zone to kill any hope of them winning that football game. All right. And Daniel Jones has been known to do that. He's a turnover machine. I mean, they were up 17-3 in this game. And in the blink of an eye, the Cowboys go down and score. And then he gets walloped from behind, fumbles, ball caroms up to Brown, and he runs it in for a touchdown. And just like that, what was 17-3 is now a 17-17 game. But they had 2 massive penalties in this game, both negating touchdowns. A fake punt that was perfectly executed. And what you have to know when you play the Giants is that their head coach, much like when you play the Ravens, and let me go back with the Dolphins. They had a beautifully executed fake punt in this game that led to a first down and ultimately led to them scoring points. the good teams in this league, the teams that are smart, they find ways to work in a fake punt or two throughout the course of a 4-game stretch. You don't do it every week, but you got to find a way to work those in when they're well-timed. They work, and if you execute properly, you can get great results. And the Giants have a head coach, much like the Ravens do, that's a special teams background coach. So you have to know that at any time, be on the alert for a special teams, Houdini act. And they pulled one over the Cowboys when they're lining up to kick a field goal, and they sneak the tight end, Evan Ingram, all the way towards the sideline. He runs like he's going off the field, and he stops right by the sidelines. And he's wide open. And the tackle on the opposite end of the field doesn't get set fast enough. I thought it was a ticky-tack call, and negates a touchdown. It should have been a touchdown, but get set. Damn it, get set. Then you have a pick play by a beautiful throw by Daniel Jones in the face of pressure. Puts a dime out there to Slayton for a touchdown, and they call a pick on Ratley, the receiver. It was the right call. He ran a pick and negated another touchdown. In a game that you lose by 3, you had two touchdowns called off and had to settle for, I think, a field goal in both instances. So that's a rough way to go about it there. Tristan Hill and Dak Prescott both sustained season-ending injuries. Tristan Hill tears his ACL. Dak Prescott with the compound fracture and dislocation of the ankle. So both of them are done for the year. We talked about Dak's injury. Just broke my heart again. Andy Dalton, though, comes in and saves the day. Plays really well. This is why you sign an Andy Dalton right here for situations just like the one he's being pressed into, because he's got the starting experience. You know that this guy can play, and it's not necessarily a 3 or 4 week stretch thing with Andy. Andy can come in and carry the load for the next 12 weeks because he's capable of that, because he's done that before. So he came in, played well, and led the Cowboys to a victory. Made a beautiful throw in the waning moments of this game to set them up for the game-winning field goal. And I talked about this guy already. The Cowboys wideouts are amazing. All of them stepped up in this game. Amari Cooper had a big catch on that last drive where he catches a shallow cross, makes a defender miss, outruns another guy, picks up 12 on 2nd and 10, and that really got the drive jump-started. Without that, they probably end up going to overtime. And I wanted overtime. I was rooting for overtime. So he was big down the stretch. I've talked about the guy that to me is the unsung hero of this group. And for me, it's the Colorado State wide receiver. And I said, look, I don't know what they're going to do when he is a free agent in 2 years. But they got a decision to make on him, because to me, he's the guy that when the game's on the line, that's who they're throwing the football to. And we saw it again. And, they did it in week 1 versus the Rams. Game on the line. He runs a go ball and beats Jalen Ramsey, gets called for a very questionable at best OPI. And here we are again, late in the game. They need it. They got to have it. And who did they throw the football to? They did it again against the Seahawks. When they needed it, it was Michael Gallup. You go to this game, the waning stretches of the game, got to have a big play. Who do they throw it to? Who comes up and makes a big play? Michael Gallup. To me, he's the heart and soul of that wide receiver group. Because Amari Cooper, just like we saw in that Giants game, could go AWOL for 2 quarters where you don't see him. He's not even targeted. And the guy that's making plays is Michael Gallup. When the game's on the line, they're not going to Amari Cooper. They're going to Michael Gallup. That's by design, by the way. And then you see CeeDee Lamb making plays. He's going to be a handful. And so they got a trio there, man. They got a collection that is just going to be tough to stop. They get it done in this game, 37-34. Big win for the Cowboys. Couldn't afford to lose this game and allow the Giants to even them up at 1-4. They had to get this one. If you want any chance to win this division, I've already stated this. Whoever wins this division is going to do the best job at beating the other teams in this division. So Dallas right now, 1-0 in the division. This was a must-win for them. You're going to have to take care of the division if you want to win this division. End of discussion. That's not up for debate. Cleveland hosting the Indianapolis Colts. I thought this was one of the games of the day going into Sunday. 2 3-1 teams playing good football in an AFC conference that all of a sudden seems loaded. This could be one of those games we look back on and say, hey, remember that game in week 5? That was for, the right to make the postseason. That was the right to get in, and somebody might be on the outside looking in when it's all said and done. And this may be the tiebreaker here. And so this was a big game. Points off of turnovers, 9 more in this game for Cleveland's defense, man. They are just getting it done defensively, and it's really helping out an offense that, to me, is okay at best, but they still aren't clicking on all cylinders, especially in the pass game. The run game was kind of muzzled in this game a bit by the Colts defense, and they got a good defense over there. They picked Baker Mayfield off twice in this game, did the Colts defensively. That's a really good defense that not a lot of people know about. Bobby Okereke with the pick in this game. I forgot the name of the other linebacker, number 50. I can see his face. I can't think of his name right now. Anthony Walker, I think it's who made that other pick. They should have had a third pick. Xavier Rhodes dropped a pick. That was a big play in the game, too, because I think Cleveland ultimately scored on that possession. Got to catch that football. Baker Mayfield threw it right to him. Got to make a play on the ball there. But I got to say this. Isaiah Rodgers with a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. We don't see those a lot anymore, so that was fun to watch. That was a hell of a kickoff return, too. Phillip Rivers is never going to win. Ever. Phillip Rivers is a loser. Because he can't take care of the football. And I don't care how good of a defense you play around him. I don't care how good is the talent around him. He's going to find a way to F it up. That's what I realized yesterday. Phillip Rivers is an F up. And I don't know if that's ever going to change. And so as much as I like the Colts, and I think they could be the best team in that division, they're not going to win anything of substance with Phillip Rivers under center. It's impossible to, because at some point, Phillip Rivers is going to do something stupid. I just needed to say that. He really frustrated me to no end in this game. Just some egregious throws and decisions and just some of the things he does. You go, Phillip, you're too old for that shit. You're too old for that. That's some shit I expect one of the young pups to do. Joe Burrow or Daniel Jones. Let the young boys do that stupid shit. You're too old for that. Phillip Rivers is like the old 41-year-old at the club ready to get in a fight. You're like, man, you too old for that shit. You ain't supposed to be fighting with these young boys in the club. You somebody's uncle. Stop. You too old for that. Like, Phillip, get your shit together, man. At times I'm disgusted with him. And this was one of those games, they could have won this football game. And because of his play, he had an egregious safety that he took in this game. Just awful safety. Like, what are you doing? You got a running back right in front of you. Throw it at his feet. You're launching it 70 yards out of bounds to who? And then you got a nerve to be complaining about it. That safety was so huge in this game because it made it a 2-score game. And it made it tough for them to have a chance to come back because you threw a pick 6. Those are the 9 points that you ultimately lose this game by. You accounted for it. It's just so hard to win when your quarterback makes the type of mistakes that Phillip Rivers makes on a weekly basis. I talk about this all the time. The Colts could be so good, and I always throw this caveat in at the end, if Phillip Rivers doesn't turn the football over. It was such a shame because they played well enough defensively to win this game. They really did. And the special teams chipped in with a touchdown when they needed it. They were reeling. It was 27-17. They were on the verge of getting blown out. And Isaiah Rodgers breaks off that 101-yard return for a touchdown, cuts the deficit to 10, and it gave them a chance to get back in this game. The defense picks off Baker Mayfield. That turns into a field goal, and all of a sudden, it's 27-20. And they're right back in this thing. And then Phillip Rivers does that stupid-ass safety, and then it's 29-20. And at that point, you felt like, okay, they're not going to come back and win this football game. And that's Phillip Rivers for you, man. Like, God damn it, Phillip. Myles Garrett is, that guy there, man. He's something else. He is something else. Another game, another forced mishap by the offense. He forced that safety in the end zone. This guy's, he's on his way to Defensive Player of the Year. Now, Aaron Donald, after 4 sacks, has something to say about that. But Myles Garrett continues to wreak havoc. And, man, is he playing at a high level or what? I love the way they move him around. It's hard to account for where this guy's going to be on any given snap because they do such a good job of moving him up and down the defensive line and giving him chances to rush against different guys. He's been phenomenal. Browns are now 4-1. I talked about that at the top of the show. 4-1 for the first time since 1994. Now let's see how they handle the success of being 4-1 on the season to start as they continue to compete in that rugged, rough, and tough AFC North division. Indianapolis drops to 3-2 and had every opportunity that they could have asked for to win this football game, but didn't get it done. And we talked about Sunday night, so I don't really need to do that here. 27-26 victory. Russell Wilson is amazing. We did that last night. I talked about it again briefly at the top of the show when I was talking about dangerous, and he was a part of the good of week number 5. So Minnesota drops to 1-4 with that loss. Seattle goes to 5-0, and DK Metcalf is a stud. And the defense actually stepped up in this game because the offense did not have their fastball. But we talked about that last night. KJ Wright had a great game. Demontre Moore with a big play in this game. The defense stepped up. Look, you're not going to get that from them most weeks. This defense is not good. But they stepped up when they had to in this game to give the offense a chance to win late with the 4th down stop. We talked about the questionable decision by Mike Zimmer. I'm not going to kill him for that. You've been running the ball effectively all night long, and you thought you could get a yard. And really, when you look at the cutback lane, I had a chance to go and look at that play again. I don't know what Alexander Madison is looking at, but there's a massive cutback lane to his right. And if he cuts it back, he may score a touchdown on that play. But that's nor here nor there. They got the stop, and then the decision was questionable because you could just kick the field goal, go up 8, and say, hey, Russell, I know you're a beast. If you're going to beat me, you're going to have to do it in overtime. You're not doing it in regulation. And he gave Russell a chance to beat him in regulation, and Russ said, don't mind if I do. So there's that. And so that's going to take us to garbage time. So let's get to garbage time. And I think I have a super chat that I need to get to from earlier in the show. Had one from Joe Halen. Thank you for the super chat. Joe didn't want nothing other than the support, and I really appreciate you, Joe. Thank you so much for that super chat. Anyhow, let's wrap this show up with a preview of Monday night and Tuesday night football. So we're going to get Monday night football as we customarily do. Chargers at the Saints. It has been announced that the Chargers are going to roll with quarterback Justin Herbert for the remainder of the season as their starter. Remember, I talked about that last week. I said, how could you go back to Tyrod Taylor even when he's healthy after seeing what you've seen from Justin Herbert? We talked about that last week already, and we talked about it on Friday with that coming to fruition with head coach Anthony Lynn coming out and saying, yeah, we're going to roll with Justin the rest of the season. And that's the right move. This guy's been phenomenal. And you just let him play now, and he's going to get his first opportunity on primetime television. Want to see how he does against a Saints defense that can be hit or miss. When the Saints defense is on, they're problematic. But when they're off, you can do those boys. And so we're going to see what they do tonight. This should be a fun one to see if he's ready to go. He went toe-to-toe with one legend already. Can he do it again and maybe this time come out with a victory? Michael Thomas is punching teammates in the face at practice, so he's not playing. So the Saints could be in some trouble in this game. So this will be a fun one to watch. Ultimately, the Saints, I think, smell blood. They understand that Tampa Bay lost. They got a gift from the Bears on Thursday. And, by the way, Carolina's 3-2 too, so you can't really F around here. If Carolina can beat the Chargers, then so should you. So I think they understand, and Tampa's already taking care of them as well. You got to take care of business against the Chargers. It's unfortunate because I think the Chargers are better than what their record indicates, but you can't keep losing games. You can't keep not getting it done, and so they haven't gotten it done. And I don't think they're going to get it done tonight either, but it's going to be fun to watch Justin Herbert. For those of you who haven't had a chance to watch him yet, he's fun. He's a really fun quarterback, man. He's a lot better than I thought he was going to be this soon in his career. All the talent was always there. My thing was, he struck me as a guy that was like a Marcus Mariota type. Kind of quiet, sort of aloof, not necessarily the guy you want being a leader of men as a starting quarterback. But I've been wrong. He's been fiery. He's been making plays. He's been using his legs. He's kind of put it all together. And it's going to be fun to watch him in that environment, even though there aren't any fans, against Drew Brees going toe-to-toe with another legend. I want to see how he does. I think the Saints are going to, however, when it's all said and done, make enough plays to find a way to win. The last time they were on Monday night, it wasn't pretty against the Raiders, and they lost. And it could be the same thing. If they don't take care of the football, if they don't execute, they could fall prey and victim to the same fate that they had a few weeks ago on Monday night when they lost to the Raiders. But since then, they've executed much better, have the Saints, and they looked really good last week against Detroit. And so I think we're going to see a much improved Saints football team in this game, and I think they're going to do enough to beat the Chargers. But again, I would not be shocked if the Chargers went into the Superdome and came out victorious. You got a Tuesday game, Bills at Titans. I'm rooting like hell for the Bills because of all of the mischief that the Titans have created. They're going to have a bunch of guys out of this game still dealing with the remnants of COVID-19. So they're not going to be the team that started the season off 3-0. But Buffalo, to me, is a better team, whether they were fully healthy or not. But now that they're going to be dealing with COVID-19 and some of the guys going to be out of this game, I think that the Bills have the upper hand. Josh Allen is playing at an MVP caliber level right now. And I think he's going to have an opportunity to show the rest of the world because, again, the Bills haven't been on front stage. They haven't been talked about the way that they should. You know, Josh Allen should be getting a lot more pub and press than he's getting. But because Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson have gotten off to the starts that they've gotten off to start this season, he's on the back burner. But he's been every bit as good as those guys. And he's done exactly what those guys have done, which is get their team off to undefeated starts to the season. So Allen should be up there. And I think this is a game for him to kind of stake his claim that, hey, I need to be mentioned in that MVP race as well. And I think he's going to get an opportunity to do that tonight or tomorrow night against the Titans on the road. And you're going to see just how talented they are because they've got a trio of wide receivers. When you sprinkle in the rookie out of Central Florida and Gabe Davis, they've got a ton of stuff, does the Bills. And then you sprinkle in the running back position with Devin Singletary. And they're still trying to work in the rookie Moss. And I love Dawson Knox at the tight end position. You sprinkle in a little bit of Tyler Kroft. They got so much stuff out there for Josh at his disposal. It's not even funny. They're a really talented team. The defense at times struggles a bit. And that could be problematic because we saw the Rams run it right down their throats in that comeback a couple of weeks ago. And if they allow Derrick Henry to do that, it could be a long night, and they could lose that football game if they allow Derrick Henry to get going downhill, which is what Tennessee is going to want to do. But if they can limit his successfulness in this game, if they can limit his success and force Tannehill to beat them, I think they can do enough offensively to win this football game. So we'll have something to clean up on Wednesday with that game. But it should be a lot of fun. I think Buffalo ultimately is going to get it done, remain undefeated. They're the better team. But, Tennessee is not to be slept on. But I think it's just going to be too much to overcome with all the COVID-19 distractions and guys that won't play. I'll take Buffalo in that football game as well. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie Tee, as we wrap up this 100th episode of the Louie Tee Network Podcast. Man, that was a lot of fun. The fun's just begun, man. We just turned 100 over here on the pod. Looking forward to many more episodes with you guys in the future. Remember, Wednesday's episode will be a social media maneuver episode where you guys take over the pod. So get your questions ready. I'll be ready, locked, and loaded to answer. If you don't have any questions, guess what? It'll be a nice, quick, and easy pod, and we'll move on. So with that being said, I'm going to glide to the side and allow you to do all the things you need to do before that Monday night game takes place. And I look forward to chopping it up with you after that game has met its conclusion tonight on the Overtime series as the Chargers and Saints lock horns tonight in what should be a really compelling football game. I'm your man, Louie Tee. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, you guys, take care. Have a good one. I'll see you guys next time on the Louie Tee Network Podcast.
Louie Tee Network.